What is up, my football family? What a draft that was. It is time now to break into each pick for every team and issue our 2020 draft grades for each team. Before we go any further, hit that like button down below, guys. I am not going to release the next division until this video gets 1,000 likes, so hit that like down below. And before we do start, I do have one quick thing I need to address because I get dozens of comments each year from people who come in, watch the video, then proceed to inform me, this video is stupid, you have no idea how these guys will pan out, why aren't you an NFL GM if you're so smart? First off, why'd you even watch the video in the first place? Second, no, nobody knows everything, including your team's general manager. Bill O'Brien just traded the best wide receiver in football for a bag of Doritos. The Jags took a punter the pick before Russell Wilson. The Bears passed on Watson and Mahomes for Mitchell Trubisky. So let's not act like the NFL is any better at this. But that's also like going into a Super Bowl preview show and saying it's dumb to analyze the game because we have no idea who's going to win. This is sports. It's analysis. We are doing predictive thought here. Look, every year teams screw up the draft, we look back saying, what the hell was that team thinking? And more often than not, we didn't actually need hindsight to tell us that it was a bad draft. So I'm here as someone who has spent countless hours evaluating these players, studying team building philosophies, historical draft data, attending the Senior Bowl, and it is my job to tell you who I personally believe did a good or bad job with the picks that they had. And hey, by the looks of it, I wasn't so off last year. So here we go. Again, guys, 1,000 likes will unlock the AFC East, but the Cincinnati Bengals actually stayed put, just went about their business, made their pick at the top of every round. So Joe Burrow was the first overall pick. Can't go wrong here. Is going to get an A. It was time to move on from Andy Dalton. Look for some more upside. Joe Burrow is going to bring that, the obvious best quarterback in this class. Let's just move on. 2.01. T. Higgins out of Clemson. Now, I did like this pick. I think it's good value for T. Higgins. It was time to probably add another wide receiver in here. AJ Green, that big-bodied option here on the franchise tag, does have injury concerns. John Ross hasn't been what you hoped. You do have Tyler Boyd, but he's a slot option. So I don't necessarily disagree with T. Higgins, but my big problem with this pick and why I'm going to ding this is, to me, the priority here had to be offensive line, especially with really good options on the board. And to pass on offensive line here when you need guards and tackles and center, to me that's just kind of a loss. T. Higgins is a really good player, but if Joe Burrow is going to be in there running for his life, I think bringing in a right tackle, a guy like Josh Jones, Matt Pert, to pair with Jonah Williams from last year would have been a much better deal. I do not want to start Joe Burrow's career with Bobby Hart protecting him at right tackle. So I'm going to ding it a little bit. I don't mind the pick, though. I do like T. Higgins. I think he's an excellent football player. I think he was being slept on in this class. Then Logan Wilson, the linebacker out of Wyoming. Again, I really like the player. It even fills a need. I'm going to give it a B. This is excellent value. I'm never against drafting a linebacker this good, especially when you need one. He is going to start and make an impact for this team, but still sitting here, Matt Pert was there. Jack Driscoll was there. I cannot fully endorse this pick when the Bengals offensive line is in the state that it's in. So I do like the pick. It is a need, but I was really scratching my head as to why the Bengals did not go offensive line with the second or third pick here. And then at 401, they grab another linebacker. And this is when I'm starting to get really frustrated with this team because a guy in Jack Driscoll is still there. There's guard options available. Akeem Davis-Gether is a good player. He's a really good athlete. Probably not going to start for your team day one. He has upside as a weak side linebacker, but you got Wilson, Josh Bynes, Jermaine Pratt, a third-round pick last year. So to not grab an offensive tackle that I think would have started for you or a guard that would have started here, I think that's when I really start to question what they're doing here. Then they grab Khalid Kareem. He's an excellent scheme fit. I compare him to Al-Qadim Muhammad, plays for the Indianapolis Colts, who's that big-bodied, almost identical size, about 6'4", 260 pounds, defends the run on early downs, doesn't offer too much as a pass rusher, but in the 5th round, gets some good rotational depth there on the edge. Dunlap's up there in age. They really want Carl Lawson on a pitch count. You do have Hubbard. I don't know if he's in the long-term plans there. So I'm okay with this pick. But again, why have we not gone offensive line yet? Then in the 6th round, they finally take Hakeem Adeniji, who's a long shot, 5th to 7th round grade, good athlete, could play here, but I doubt it. I think it's a good value, a good dart throw to throw in the 6th round to see if you find something. But to not go offensive line earlier, I think was a pretty big mistake for this Bengals team that they could be regretting as the season goes on. But they are getting some pretty good players here. And then Marcus Bailey, linebacker out of Purdue. Again, excellent value at linebacker. They got excellent value at linebacker throughout this entire class. I like the pick. He's a really good player. But if I could just not take Akeem Davis-Gether in the 4th and grab like Jack Driscoll, this draft would be an A+, honestly. And I would reassess the T. Higgins, Logan Wilson grades as well. But I think they did drop the ball a little bit, not getting an offensive line. I don't want to continue belaboring that point. They did get some good players here. And of course, if Joe Burrow can transcend offensive line and be that elite quarterback, this thing's going to be an A+ and doesn't really matter. But if you really want to address the draft strategy here, I don't think they did the best with what they could have done after Joe Burrow that was kind of handed to them anyway. So I do give it a B+. I think their evaluations were spot on. The values were good here. But to triple down on linebacker and barely touch offensive line, I am going to ding it. So a B+ for the Cincinnati Bengals. So then the Cleveland Browns, can they recapture the hype, maybe make the playoffs next year? Well, they got a good start here. Jedrick Wills. We had kind of joked about not what position are they going to take in the 1st round, what tackle are they going to take. So they take Jedrick Wills, excellent value. He's a beast out of Alabama. He is going to have to convert over to left tackle from right. I think he can handle it, but it is a minor question mark, but still a great pick. And then they grab Grant Delpit in the 2nd round. Now, this one is interesting. I give it an A-. I really like Grant Delpit. My only note here is that I really picture Grant Delpit as a guy that needs to make that full transition to more of a box safety, the Derwin James, Jamal Adams role that bigger safeties like Grant Delpit have found a lot of success in. Played a lot of free safety at LSU. I think there were some holes in his game. It's not that he's a bad athlete and lacks range. I just think that his best utilization is closer to the line of scrimmage, matching up on tight ends, running backs out of the backfield, where he can really use that length to his advantage to disrupt passing lanes. You don't necessarily need that length as much at free safety, which is one of his better assets. And I think he struggled a little bit taking angles and tackling in a lot of space. So if they're taking him here to play free safety, and the reason I think that could be the case is they have Carl Joseph on the roster, who is that true strong safety. Now, he was a low-level investment. If they say, you know what, Carl, go play free safety for a year or something, we don't really care about you. Grant Delpit is our box mismatch problem safety for the future, I would change this to an A+. But the reason I ding it just a tiny bit is if they say and or see him as a free safety, I will say that I think that Ashton Davis, and even more than that, Antoine Winfield Jr. out of Minnesota would have been better impact options and better long-term answers as a free safety. So we'll see how that all plays out. Just a slight question mark on that pick, but all in all, excellent value, really high upside pick. They've had a good job letting guys land into their lap lately. Then they grab Jordan Elliott, defensive tackle out of Missouri. I'm kind of so-so on him. He's a fine player. He's got some good pass rush moves. He's got some decent play strength. I just don't know if he's ever going to be a superstar, maybe a third defensive tackle. He's actually very similar to Larry Ogunjobi. He's very good with his hands. So a long-term replacement to Larry Ogunjobi, who I'm a little lower on. I gave that pick a B. I had a 4th round grade on him. Nothing wrong with that pick. Then they grab Jacob Phillips, linebacker out of LSU. He was a good athlete, has some length. He's not unlike Mack Wilson, who they took in the 5th round last year. He'll come in and compete. It's a decent pick, decent value. He just, doesn't truly excite me. Same thing with Harrison Bryant. He's going to be their 3rd tight end. I will say he's not unlike Austin Hooper. He could benefit from beefing up, becoming a better run blocker if he's going to truly play in this play action outside zone scheme. But he's a good route runner. He's a decent tight end. I just don't get fired up about this selection. It definitely tells me that David Njoku is not a part of the long-term plans here. Could he be headed to the trade market? We'll see. But then Nick Harris in the 5th round was a stellar pick. Center out of Washington. Talk about Kevin Stefanski coming from that Minnesota offense from last year, which stems from the Shanahan scheme, where they want to run outside zone, a ton of play action, moving pockets, a lot of that stuff. Nick Harris thrives in that system. He explodes off the ball. He's one of the best move blockers in this entire class. I think he has a good chance to start at right guard. You also have J.C. Treader getting up there in age at center. You don't know how long he's going to be able to maintain that, so you get a really good piece on the interior in the 5th round, who's a perfect scheme fit. I love this pick. I think he's going to start at right guard. And then you had Donovan Peoples-Jones, freak athlete, 5-star prototype coming out of Michigan with that size and speed. The only thing is he never really developed, wasn't a true professional at Michigan. Can he do that here at the Cleveland Browns? I've been saying that outside wide receiver is a need for this team. They need another outside guy, a long-term answer, because Jarvis Landry's a good player, but I think at some point they're going to want to get out of that contract for a slot wide receiver. So Donovan Peoples-Jones is about as good as this team could have done in the 6th round. He's got upside. He's going to be able to have a very simplified role in this offense, which is run go balls, run deep overs on play action, just use that size, run fast, play hard, catch the ball. We can worry about your route development over the years, but I think he could actually start here as a 6th round pick and a true impact and be a great fit with Baker's deep ball that's pretty good. So the draft as a whole was really good for the Cleveland Browns. I give this one an A. I think they got 7 really good pieces for the future and winning right now. So nice draft for the Cleveland Browns. Let's see if they can put it all together this year. Then we have the Baltimore Ravens, and simply put, I'll be straightforward here. This was the best draft class I have ever evaluated. I don't know how the NFL let this happen to the Baltimore Ravens, who were already terrifying last year. This was like one of those mock drafts that someone sends you on Twitter, and you look at it and say, I mean, that would be unbelievable, but it's never going to happen. There's no way they ever get all those guys. And then it happens. Like, what the hell is going on here? So Patrick Queen lands into their lap. He is an elite linebacker prospect. The number one need for the Baltimore Ravens was inside linebacker, was kind of the only weak spot on that defense last year. God, this is incredible what they did here. So he is an elite cover linebacker prospect. Think of Deion Jones. If he has some flaws, it's that he shies away from blocks, is a little raw, needs to tackle better. Name a better team than the Baltimore Ravens. They're going to coach that thing up at linebacker. So an A-plus pick in the 1st round just lands right into their lap. And then J.K. Dobbins in the 2nd round. A perfect fit here, an A-plus, a total steal. Let me break this one down pretty in depth. There's 2 things that are amazing about this. For one, adding a running back in the first 2 rounds is not always a bad decision, because I have just reamed some teams for doing this, right? Let me elaborate. If you are a team in one of 2 situations, oftentimes these things coexist. One being a loaded roster that doesn't have pressing needs, like the Baltimore Ravens, or 2, a team with a loaded roster that is going to be encountering cap space. It makes sense to get a running back like J.K. Dobbins that is going to be a top 10 running back. Look at a top 10 running back list from the last 5 years. Quite often, they are rookies or second-year running backs on rookie contracts that have fresh legs before they get paid and their legs fall off. So there's reasons why J.K. Dobbins here makes sense as far as value is concerned. So you do still have Mark Ingram there. I get it. He's awesome. He's a perfect fit here. He's not going anywhere this year. J.K. Dobbins adds sustainability. Mark Ingram has also had injury problems over the course of his career. If anything were to happen, you have insurance for a team that wants to win a Super Bowl this season, quite simply put. So that's why that makes sense from a value standpoint. J.K. Dobbins in this offense is Ezekiel Elliott. I do not say that lightly. He is. He is an extremely similar prospect. He is going to be one of the 5 best running backs at doing one specific thing, and that is what Ezekiel Elliott does, and that is, here's your hole, hit it now, hit it hard, hit it fast, run through arm tackles, and if you get through to the 2nd level, go. Score a touchdown. That is what J.K. Dobbins is going to do here, and on this offense, I am terrified if I am any other team in the NFL, because their offense lives and dies from the read option with Lamar Jackson and now J.K. Dobbins, Mark Ingram. Good luck, NFL. Because in the past, even I think J.K. Dobbins can add a better element than Mark Ingram does as far as the to-the-house ability, the explosiveness through the hole. Teams had no idea what to do when they ran that read option, because If they give it to Mark Ingram, they're going to get 6 yards. They're going to blow you up the middle. He's going to fight for 6 yards. You can't stop that. You can't give up 6 yards every play. You have to crash if you're a defensive end getting red. And then Lamar Jackson keeps it, and he explodes for a 40-yard touchdown. Like, it was already terrifying. Now it's even worse, and it's locked in to be here for the next 4 years with J.K. Dobbins. So that pick was just an absolute slam dunk. Already an A+. Like, if they whiffed on the rest of this draft, I don't think it would be anything worse than an A. But then they get Justin Madubuike, who is a freak, a top 50 player in this class, not even necessarily raw. The Ravens don't even need him, but they're like, yeah, we'll take him. He could be an all-pro defensive end in our scheme in 2 years when Calais Campbell's gone. So what a pick there. Then Devin Duvernay, are you freaking kidding me, NFL? How do you let this happen? I've been telling Ravens fans who want this outside wide receiver deep threat, go trade up for Henry Ruggs. We need Denzel Mims. We need that number 2 outside guy. No, that is not how this offense thinks. They know it. They get Devin Duvernay to play in the slot here. This offense, they operate as a passing game over the middle of the field, and they love to have Marquise Brown as that deep threat on the outside to keep offenses honest. But honestly, that number 2, that X wide receiver or the Y wide receiver opposite of Marquise Brown, they don't care who it is. They want you to be a big body guy that can block. They don't care what kind of routes you run, how open you get. They want to make sure that you can block so that that corner doesn't come free to tackle Lamar Jackson in space. That is all they care about. In the slot, though, they had Seth Roberts. That slot weapon was not really an issue for teams last year. Devin Duvernay with a 4.4 speed, sure hands, and excellent run after catch ability. He even has some size to block. He is a guy that can come in and play some running back flex and confuse teams even more. I can't think of a more terrifying fit in the 3rd round after they already got J.K. Dobbins. They already improved the defense. What the hell are teams going to stop this? Play action now with Devin Duvernay running a crossing route, with Mark Andrews over the middle, Marquise Brown going deep, the threat of the read option with J.K. Dobbins, Mark Ingram, Lamar Jackson. What the actual hell are teams going to do to defend this team? I thought the Ravens were headed towards a little bit of regression next year just because Mark Ingram, I didn't know if that was going to repeat itself. Some other reasons for regression, just natural regression. But like this draft, I don't know how you can't pick the Ravens to win the Super Bowl next year. It's just insane what they've pulled off. And it continues. They get Malik Harrison at the end of the 3rd round. He is an absolute beast of a linebacker, moves better than anyone should at that size. If you took a freaky cover guy that struggles to thump in the 1st round, to get Malik Harrison almost in the 4th round, like WTF NFL, what are you doing? This is going to be a cheat code for this defense. This is going to be one of the best linebacking duos in the NFL for the next decade. Unbelievable. And then they take a couple shots at guard, which was excellent thinking. You know, I'm not super high on Tyree Phillips. They clearly like him. He's a tackle converting to guard, so that's always intriguing. I think he's got some upside doing that. He's going to compete with Ben Bredeson, who they get the Michigan connection. Jim Harbaugh has no reason to lie to his brother about if Ben Bredeson's a good football player and is going to put in the work that he needs to do to succeed. So between those two players, with the depth they already have, after losing Marshall Yanda, I think they're doing a good job to make sure that they get starting caliber guard play at that spot. So those are a great combination of moves. The players themselves I'm not crazy about, but I feel pretty good between the two of them. They're going to get a good player out of that at right guard. So if you combine them together, that's like an A. And then they take Broderick Washington. You know, didn't really understand the need for that, but whatever. He's a good run stopper. They feel they need another interior defensive lineman. All right, whatever. Then James Prochet to back up Devin Duvernay, compete at wide receiver, maybe even return kicks. I don't know. They trade up for him because why not? He's a 4th, 5th round player. He's a great route runner. You can't have enough of those guys. Why not add James Prochet? And then Geno Stone. Like, what the hell? How is he there in the 7th round? He's an excellent, high IQ, true junior coming out of Iowa. Because no D-back has ever fallen in the draft and been a steal out of Iowa before. This is Chuck Clark all over again. He's probably not going to make much of an impact as a rookie, but gives them depth and development and a future probably star of this defense. This is easily, by a country absolute mile and 5,000 miles, the best draft I have ever seen. Unbelievable, Baltimore Ravens. You saw John Harbaugh just literally dancing like a buffoon, like spinning in circles in his desk chair. Totally warranted. This draft was just a cheat code. Unbelievable. The Baltimore Ravens just, I think, cemented themselves as the best team in the NFL and the best front office in the NFL. Good Lord. All right, Pittsburgh Steelers are last here. Not quite as exciting, but still a pretty solid draft. They only had 6 picks and did not have that first-round pick. They gave it up for Minkah Fitzpatrick, which was a win. So they take Chase Claypool. And I want to talk about him and Anthony McFarland, then we'll talk about Alex Highsmith in the third. Something very clear was dictated to me from this draft about the Pittsburgh Steelers, and that is with Big Ben coming back with a shoulder issue. He already was showing a little bit of a drop in his deep ball, his arm strength. I think that they're saying something very simple here that makes a ton of sense. We're not going to run this offense like we did in 2015 with the Killer Bees, with Big Ben in his prime, with Antonio Brown as that deep threat. We're going to do this a little differently. We are going to have an efficient, short passing game with a bunch of guys that can get open early and often, and more importantly, be excellent run after the catch threats. Because coming out here and asking Big Ben to really have this explosive offense, it doesn't make a lot of sense when he's at the point in his career that he is, and more importantly, when you have the defense that the Steelers have in place. Remember, they had one of the best defenses in the NFL last year, but they had Duck Hodges at quarterback. So they're going to have Big Ben play point guard here. And by bringing in Chase Claypool, who's going to be a slot wide receiver, tight end hybrid, you have Eric Ebron in there, and then Anthony McFarland in the 4th round, who I'm very high on. I think this is a great value. There was maybe some other spots that you could have gone here. They do have some other running backs on the roster, but all in all, you're adding 2 mismatch problems to pair with Deontay Johnson, Juju Smith-Schuster. Obviously, you do still have a decent deep threat in James Washington. All of a sudden, you've got a plethora of options for Big Ben to distribute the ball to, take some pressure off of Big Ben, and put it on these receivers who are all great athletes, can make a lot of explosive plays, break some plays to the house, and then put a lot of pressure on that defense. I got hyped about the Ravens. I think the Steelers also are going to be an excellent team. These games next year are going to be a ton of fun to watch between the Steelers and the Ravens. So they take Alex Highsmith in the 3rd round to break down the rest of this draft. I personally am not crazy about this pick. I understand the thought process. This team does this a lot. They really like those athletes that they can develop. Think Bud Dupree, Sean Davis. There's a long list. Terrell Edmonds, of players that are really good athletes that probably weren't great college players, but they're hoping that their coaching and their culture can turn these guys into something special. I don't know, Alex Highsmith, he's 23 years old, played at Charlotte, was incredibly productive at that level, so they're hoping they can replicate it. I don't know. I don't think that the guy is Marcus Davenport coming out of UTEP. I think he's a good prospect, probably someone I would take a 5th, 6th round flyer on, not a 3rd round pick. But we'll see. They could easily prove me wrong. Then they took Kevin Dotson. I'll be completely transparent. I had about 100 offensive linemen on my board. Kevin Dotson was not one of them. He was not on my radar. The Steelers have a good eye for this thing. I really thought that this was a need for this team, was interior offensive line. Not necessarily for this season. They do have Steven Wisniewski at left guard. That is a question mark. But they've really let a lot of pieces go at this point and haven't done a whole lot to supplement it. That's always been a strength of this team, is that offensive line. So I think that would have been a good move for them to take some more offensive linemen in this class. I don't know if Kevin Dotson is the only answer that they needed. Maybe he is a total sleeper cell. So we'll find out about him. And then Antoine Brooks, I like him as a player. He's a really physical guy, tackles well. He'll fit in here. He'll play special teams right away. I give it a B. He's a solid player. It's good value. But to me, he's another dime a dozen box safety. There's so many guys like Antoine Brooks in the NFL. He just doesn't, wow me. And then Carlos Davis, definitely the kind of athlete you want to take a flyer on in the 7th round. A really nice athlete out of Nebraska. Never really reached his upside. Coaching at Nebraska has always been kind of a mess, though, over the last decade. So maybe there's something missing there that they can unlock here in Pittsburgh, like they've done with other interior defensive linemen a lot. So there could be something there. He's got a lot of upside, a lot of athleticism in that scheme. So ultimately, I think they did a good job. They had a plan, filling in the needs of the future with guys like Highsmith, Dotson, Brooks, Davis, and then they took some impact kind of playmakers in Claypool and McFarland. So I did give it a B. It's not a wow draft, but I think it was a well-executed draft for what they had. So that is the AFC North. Again, guys, 1,000 likes. We will unlock the AFC East. Peace out, and we'll see you for the next one.